So, for everyone today, there's a special guest on behalf of myself, Revoke, and Charles Maddox. It's someone that you may or may not know, but along the way, we wanted to make sure that you in the CRPS community actually had a way to reach and learn more about this individual. His name is Bryan Pope. He's a lawyer out of Texas, and he's been well representing CRPS for a number of years now. We're going to get into a deeper conversation and some direct questions about himself, his practice, and what he does for the CRPS community, and wanted to give the voice of himself back to the community for access, care, and understanding that everyone in this community has a voice and has representation. And for us, it's sponsored by Bryan Pope. Bryan, thank you very much for meeting with me today.
Thank you, Matt. Looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit building behind the scenes. And I know for myself, being able to see you on the Trial by Fire 2 teaser trailer, it really piqued my interest as a community member behind the scenes. Before we get into the questions, for yourself, is there anything that you'd like to address before we get right into it?
No, I'm looking forward to having this opportunity to talk to you and learn more about what you do as it relates to the CRPS community and trial by fire, and we can talk about
Mhm.
all that. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Perfect. So for both of us, from what I've been able to summarize, is we're both deep, obviously, advocates for the community itself. We provide representation in different ways, but you're an individual who provides us direct legal representation in the courthouse and beyond to make sure that at the end of the day, we're provided whole care in regards to what we actually need. It's something I deeply respect. And obviously, for who you are and what you've brought to this community itself, it's been absolutely life changing already for individuals. That's been felt. And I know some of the private communications I've had with people, you're deeply respected in this community. So to have you on is definitely an opportunity for myself, and I appreciate it. So, for yourself, what originally drew you to CRPS? And was there a specific moment or experience that made this cause personal to you?
So I've been practicing law for a little over 30 years now, and in the late 1990s, my former partner, who's retired, got me involved in a case that involved, at the time, everybody really referred to it as RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And it's the first time I had an opportunity to understand, the math, the science behind CRPS and what it was all about. Even though we were really more referring to it RSD at the time, we
Mhm.
represented a man who was severely injured while unloading a truck due to no fault of his own, but the negligence of a company. And he had a upper extremity injury, and it was kind of eye opening for me. I'd represented people in catastrophic personal injury cases, wrongful death, things like that prior, but never been involved with somebody, with that nerve condition. And it was an opportunity to learn about how, hideous the condition is, how painful, life changing, disabling. And we were able to get him a good recovery and try to get him some financial security going forward. And at that point, I realized, that was an opportunity for me to get more involved in helping people, representing people who had RSD or CRPS. Obviously, it's more known now as CRPS, but
Mhm.
helping those people, and that just kind of evolved over the years. I've been doing it over, well, say the late '90s, so over 25 years now, representing people um, in trauma-related accidents, or incidents.
Right.
That's the key. The only way I can really get involved is if there is an individual or a company that we can identify that was the cause of the person's injury that either led to the CRPS, or the person's injury that directly caused the CRPS.
All right. So root cause identifiers of how did it originally spur on, when, what was the moment, and who essentially created that unsafe condition that led to human trauma. So it seems like you have a very strong handle on CRPS, and you've understood that it is incredibly complex and very misunderstood. Along the way, what's motivated you to stay committed to helping people living with CRPS over the long term?
Well, Matt, I mean, I think that my representation of people and getting to know the families and the support groups, the friends, the loved ones, as well as obviously my client,
Mhm.
has enabled me to make an impact in these people's lives. I'm not going to be able to put them all back together again like they were before the injury. But what our law firm does is, from an empathetic standpoint, because we've represented so many, and my legal staff is trained and has represented as well, these people over the years, in dealing with the daily up and down, the roller coaster of emotions, the pain. It just enables me, because I've represented so many people, to be able to be an effective advocate for them, whether it's in the courtroom or with an insurance company, an adjuster, a judge, or a jury. I would say, the thing about CRPS from my standpoint is, and I keep, you alluded to it, is that it
Hmm.
is extremely complex.
Right.
Uh, they call it complex regional pain syndrome for a reason, and that is because it is complex. There are no two cases that are alike. From my perspective, from a legal perspective, I do find that somewhat interesting. I mean, you can have a sore back case, and everybody, it's kind of a cookie cutter approach. But
Hmm.
with CRPS, you need to really understand the science and the medicine of CRPS in order to be most effective in representing your clients. Because I've seen all kinds of different CRPS over the years: upper extremity, lower extremity, different body parts,
Hmm.
how it is more than just a nerve pain. It can cause serious problems, immunological problems, um, gastro problems.
Hmm.
It's just complex. It's whole body,
Hmm.
and I think, from my perspective, my understanding of all the different types of CRPS and the different impacts they're having, and as it's evolving, I mean, we're finding out more and more about how CRPS impacts the whole body
Right.
as time and medicine goes on. So that just gives me a kind of a high level understanding of CRPS that helps me and my staff
Hmm.
with our clients.
It's honestly, it's very commendable. At the end of the day, there's always the thought process that we have as on the patient side with the diagnosis that there's usually a handful of things that can come out or conversations that we tend to have. It's always the if they've only lived a day in my shoes, if they've only felt what I felt, if they've only been able to feel the weight on my shoulders. And in a previous episode that I did with Dr. Chase Teagarden, those things are very specific in conversation actually to the individual and where they're diagnosed within CRPS itself. So for myself, I'm lower extremity. So it's always the thought that I have is if they've only experienced the day in my shoes,
Right.
right? There's those types of conversations. And you really narrowed down on something specific as you were speaking there. It really comes down to the keyword, and it's advocation. And I've seen you obviously as a lawyer, but I see you more than that now. You being able to speak about how you treat essentially a person as a whole part. You see their family, and you see everything through. So while that does take into account you still being the lawyer and the legal representation, you're actually an advocate for us in the community as well, and you have a very good understanding, from what I can tell, on the totality of what the diagnosis actually presents. A lot of us talk about our comorbidities. We talk about all the other things potentially along the way that spur along the scenes. And you're someone who is definitely identifying that to the everyday public in a lot different fashion, especially within the courtroom. Brian, for yourself, you've been involved with the RSD community in the past, like you've stated, and within the CRPS community for many years. Can you talk about your work with the RSDSA and why that organization's mission matters to you most?
So, Matt, I got involved with the RSDSA again through my former partner, Mary Alice McClarty,
Mhm.
who did a bunch of work with the RSDSA back in the 2000s and early teens. Um, I believe it was 2015 or 16 when I first got introduced to the RSDSA. I was a speaker at one of their Optimizing the Wellness conferences out in La Jolla, California,
Mhm.
and Matt, I met so many people out there who were just desperate for information and hope.
Right.
And even though I'm not able to help everybody, I'll certainly try to answer their questions and give them, some comfort that maybe there's not anybody to blame for their CRPS, because there's not always somebody
Right.
to blame, and help them, close a chapter and then move on and focus more on fighting their condition, and just talking to the support groups, and the caregivers and loved ones. I realized, this was could potentially be something that I would like to be involved in. So over the years, I continued to speak at the RSDSA conferences, and my law firm was a major sponsor
Hmm.
of the RSDSA, to help them with their research and development, and doing community events and things like that. And I was approached a couple years ago that there was an opening on the board for the RSDSA, and that they would like to have an attorney involved.
Right.
And they knew my work, and they knew of my passion in helping people with CRPS. And so it was a win-win. It was a great opportunity for me to get further involved. And um, from a lay perspective, it's been fascinating listening to the doctors who are on the board. Talk about. I mean, these are some of the most foremost pain management doctors in the world.
Great.
Um, Talk about CRPS, and also we have people on the board who do have CRPS themselves, and just listening to them, the perspectives, taking it all in, it's been great. And then my involvement with events and things like that.
Right.
So that is, you know, they say, what kind of drives you from a passion standpoint, and being involved with the RSDSA is definitely one of those things. I do really enjoy it, and I've learned a lot, and it does help me uh, in my legal work
Right.
with my clients, because I
Right.
say, oh, now I know answers to some questions that I didn't know before, because I'm in this amazing group where we talk about these things that are the cutting edge of CRPS and development for treatments and things like that.
Right. It actually sounds amazing through that partnership that you've been able to expand your knowledge, obviously expand your reach, being able to give back to the community itself. And for myself, it looks like it's also changed the way you approach legal cases with CRPS patients. So I absolutely appreciate you creating that partnership with them. And again, going back to the
It
advocation piece, it
Yeah,
makes
it
a lot of
certainly has
sense.
added to the knowledge base, and the arsenal that I
Right.
bring as an attorney advocate for people with CRPS, by being involved with the RSDSA, being on the board, and having an opportunity to work with again some of the best doctors in the
Mhm.
world who are treating the condition.
If you could summarize it maybe into a few key points, what are the biggest takeaways you've actually taken directly from the CRPS patients that are part of the board with the RSDSA organization?
Yeah, I think those who are on the board who have CRPS, it is it's interesting hearing their stories, because I don't not everybody has a legal case, not
Mhm.
everybody has a potential legal case, and so I get to know the stories differently, because it's not just from the angle of I'm looking at a potential case, and I get to hear about the impact they're having in their communities, and their support groups. These are some of the leaders in the CRPS community who are on the board, and have overcome to the extent they can their
Mhm.
condition, so that they can give back,
Right.
which is important. And it's important to have people who are experiencing the condition. You also have on the board, spouses of those who have it, who
Right.
bring a unique perspective as well. So I would compliment the board and say it's very well rounded, and it is, again, it's an opportunity to learn and listen,
Right.
which I did not have before, and I do really think that helps me be a best advocate I can be for my clients who do have CRPS in the legal community.
Right. So, for yourself as that attorney in the CRPS community, and obviously working directly as a director with RSDSA, what do you see as the most pressing legislative or systemic hurdle currently facing our community in terms of disability rights and access to care?
That's a great question. There really isn't an advocate for the CRPS community uh, on Capitol Hill. Um,
Right.
you've got more well-known diseases like heart disease and cancer, things like that, that there are advocates. There's pieces of legislation. CRPS is defined, Matt, as a rare condition. And so because of that, sometimes it doesn't get the notoriety, that I think it should. I think it's getting
Right.
better. Uh, for instance, the Take Care of Maya
Hmm.
Netflix documentary really highlighted CRPS and how it affects people. Um, there's opportunities with trial by fire too
Hmm.
to continue that. But it's not going to turn overnight.
Right.
The things that I see as big problems that impact people with CRPS and kind of hold back their ability to get the help they need is
Hmm.
our workers' comp system is not designed to help those who need the help the most. Uh, it is designed to help the insurance carriers. It's designed to help the companies. It's designed to help corporate medicine. And we see so many times in the workers' comp community, uh, insurance carriers denying that somebody has CRPS, or if they do, denying the treatments that are so needed.
Right.
And so they make it very difficult for them. Very similar to Social Security disability.
Hmm.
It's not easy to get CRPS patients with Social Security disability on the first try. Often you need to do multiple times, and you need lawyers
Right.
who can potentially help you with disability cases. Um, but from a legislative standpoint, it certainly would be good to have more focus on um, the pain community, writ large, and
Hmm.
CRPS is certainly a major part of that with legislation that potentially could help. But the way our system is set up, it's just very difficult to pass legislation, even if there is a bipartisan consensus
Right.
on things that need to be done. But the RSDSA uh, is designed to try to provide that advocacy
Hmm.
if necessary, and hopefully, as time goes on, as people understand more about CRPS, that's something we can see a real change with.
I personally see a big change happening from my first time I was diagnosed and found my injury in 2015 and going through everything. Media has a huge part in play, unfortunately, in our everyday society now. And you talked about taking care of Maya. I know on the TV show Station 19, one of their fire captains was actually diagnosed with CRPS on the show. Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest of representations of who we are as a community and played a lot into the stereotypes. But there's other opportunities, obviously, like Trial by Fire 1 and now Trial by Fire 2. And then the bigger conversation of other content creators and other people in our community starting to create their own documentaries, like what Dr. Chase Teagarden had done. The more that we start to really represent ourselves in the community and finding our voice, I think change slowly will happen. But it's really getting the everyday people to really recognize and understand this disease and being able to understand the diagnosis. And us as a community not having to invent our own ways to everyone to try and explain what it is we're really going through, right? So I would say we're just at the infancy, really, of public being able to truly understand from an everyday perspective that this diagnosis exists. It can happen to anyone and what we really go through. And we have some serious fighters and warriors that have been 25, 30 plus years in regards to RSD and every other name it's been tossed at it over the years. So I appreciate the work that you're doing behind the scenes and creating that middle ground with the organization and as a director to give us chance and hope and opportunity to be able to really hopefully step in the middle to get us the ethical healthcare that we need or the representation that we need. So for the next step, and when we start to really talk about you and the legal aspect and who you are within a lawyer and you being an attorney for us in the community, what do you think is most important for attorneys to really understand when representing someone with CRPS?
Wow, that's a not an easy answer. I- there's a lot of lawyers out there, Matt, and a lot of good lawyers out there. But
Mhm.
I think if you're going to represent somebody who has CRPS, you really need to understand the nature of it. You need to understand the complexity of it. You need to understand that there isn't, a simple treatment that one size fits all.
Mhm.
You need to understand the nuances of the different treatments. You got spinal cord stimulation, you've got ketamine, you've got low dose naltrexone, you've got all kinds of therapy. Obviously,
Mhm.
the key is to try to enable people for mobility standpoint, so that they can exercise and use their body parts. And I think it's important for an advocate and somebody who's going to represent people with CRPS to understand um, the causation of CRPS.
Right.
Uh, I mean, it's not simple.
Right.
I mean, I think from my perspective, after representing hundreds of people, I think it's a fairly simple analysis. But you have to be able to teach that to the insurance company, the adjuster, the jury, the
Right.
judge, et cetera. Um, and that's where you're going to see your fights
Mhm.
from a defense perspective.
Right.
Is initially they're going to say that your client doesn't have CRPS, and then if they and the alternatives say, okay, well, we hypothetically say they have CRPS, but they're not getting this treatment, they're over treating, or this is incorrect treatment, or
Mhm.
they don't need this treatment, or it's all in their head, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
you just have to be aware of what the defenses are, and it helps when you have a lot of experience with that when you go into representing people, making sure they don't make the mistakes
Right.
with their doctors that potentially could lead to problems when their case gets into litigation.
It's heavy, it's a lot. There's things for yourself, obviously, that get extremely heavy and emotional. You previously spoke about empathy and what it takes to obviously be in the industry of legal framework and healthcare. And for yourself, through all of that, what really keeps you going?
Well, I think, and that's a question I often think about. Uh, I believe in trying to find out what is your why.
Right.
Okay, maybe I'll get a little zen like here, but um, what brings me satisfaction from a human element and from a career professional standpoint is when I'm able to successfully um, represent clients and get them to the point where they have financial security options that they didn't have before they came to me,
Right.
and a new look, a new lease, so to speak, on life after we're able to get their case resolved, and the happiness, the relief, that you bring closure to that aspect of what they're dealing with, so that they can close that chapter and move on. That brings me happiness. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients, their loved ones, their parents, because I've represented minors and
Mhm.
young people. When we successfully resolve a case, I'm a kind of a touchy feely guy, and I say, "It's okay, we can hug it out," and, you can just really Matt, you can really feel, the emotions coming out, that's at the end of the day, that's what drives me,
Right.
is to be able to try to help people, because I think I have a unique ability to do that.
You
And,
feel, uh,
we'll peel the onion a little bit back more. I'm a, son of a preacher man.
okay.
Uh, I've got, 5 ministers, Presbyterian ministers in my family, and my father's a Southern Presbyterian minister. And, I've felt a calling for a long time to help people and counsel people, not at the pulpit, but,
Right.
um, in the courtroom. And I feel like in doing that, the counseling I provide, especially with CRPS clients, is something that, that's my calling. And ultimately, Matt, that's my why.
Right. For myself, just the way I'm feeling this personally is, That hug that you give them, that's the intense emotional release that you spoke about. That's a huge weight on their life that's being lifted, has been removed. It's the help that you've been able to solve. It's a door closing, it's a new chapter opening. It seems along the way as well, the support that you provide people, it really opens up their eyes to understand today might not be okay, but tomorrow could be. It's not always going to be perfect, but along the way, you really are inspiring hope in these people and understanding that they have really a chance at life and success after the diagnosis. Outside of the courtroom itself, there's going to be a lot that goes obviously into their court case itself. There's going to be a lot of emotion and trauma brought up, a lot of fact finding, and a lot of proof of evidence needing to occur. But afterwards, when it's said and done, and a person's essentially won their case with your support, it's really is validation in our diagnosis that we've been seeking all along. And that you're able to provide that to us is ultimately not really felt in any other part of our actual journey. So it's something that patient to attorney, and then obviously on the podcast episode today, I deeply want to say it's felt by myself, and I know by others watching this today, they're going to also see that as well and be able to understand. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you. That means a lot. And you know what? The thing I was going to say is that a lot of people come to us and they don't have the ability to pay
Right.
for the treatment they need. The American system of health insurance is not necessarily favorable to those people who don't have the resources, and so we are able to help people. With legitimate personal injury cases, CRPS, we're able to help them get the treatment, whether it's a stellate ganglion block or lumbar
Mhm.
sympathetic block, potentially trial spinal cord stimulator,
Right.
ketamine. We give them the opportunity for access that they can get during the pendency of their case,
Right.
and then when their case is resolved, then that bill gets paid. But they're able to get the treatment
Right.
um, that they wouldn't have otherwise, and that means a lot to me because what I tell my clients is, look, what we're looking for is a new normal.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. You're never going to be cured. It's
Mhm.
never going to go away. But if we can help you, get your pain level down from a 8 or a 9 to a 3 or a 4 or even
Yep.
lower because you have a spinal cord stimulator or because, you're getting the nerve blocks that you couldn't otherwise have gotten. That again, that makes me feel that we're making a difference.
To be honest, you're actually providing a treatment path and plan for individuals who have been diagnosed a lot further than what the medical community is. A lot of people may have heard of it in the medical community. They remember a page about it. They remember about potentially if they've gone through pain fellowship. It is a conversation that's been had along the way, but no one's really actually stepping back and saying, these are the things that potentially need to look at, do, try, and everything. And you're actually opening that door for a patient to be able to understand that there are treatment options towards having a more comfortable, healthier life. And like you said, for myself at the beginning of my diagnosis, I would say most days I was somewhere between a 7 and 9 in pain. I'm comfortably now most days between, I would say, a 2 and a 3. A 2 and a 3 to me is an absolutely massive win. It's involved a spinal cord stimulator, it's involved a dorsal root ganglion stimulator, it's involved multiple treatments along the way. But being able to regain back my life, if I can be in a 2 to 3 every day, that puts me in a completely different world than living in that 7, 8, and
Sure.
9, right?
That
So,
was your new normal.
yeah.
That's what we try to help people get to.
Right. Now, for yourself, here's the fun part. We get to talk about you personally now, and we get to talk about your next steps and everything about who you really are and the launch of your new law firm. So, being able to start now your own new law firm, what's led you really to take those steps?
So, as time went on, as I represented more people, and was realizing that I could make a difference in the community, and there were so many people out there who needed help. I decided the best way to reach out to the community was to start a law firm that actually had the title CRPS in
Right.
it, as opposed to just a generic law firm name. And so, because of that, that gives me instant recognition, whether it's in social media or when people do Google searches, or everybody's doing chat these days.
Hmm.
The goal is to put the footprint out there, and the CRPS law firm uh, does that in a way that I'm hoping, because we just launched it, so it's
Good.
new. Hoping to do that in a way that I will have an opportunity to help more people around the country. We represent people, even though we're located in Texas.
Hmm.
We represent people all over the country. I have connections with trial lawyer networks and friends around the country. Over 25 years of doing this, I've been representing people through other law firms, working with them in Oregon, Idaho, Washington, Illinois, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Alabama, North Carolina, you know, Pennsylvania, Florida. I know I'm leaving out some, right? But the bottom line is that I have a connection in every state in the country,
Right.
and so I'm not limited in where I can help people. And that CRPS law firm is designed to be a national organization that can help people.
Right.
And so that's why I started it. And with more people, especially with Trial by Fire 2, with Revoke, the work you're doing. Getting that word out there, so that
Right.
the people will know they have a potential advocate. Again, like I said, we can't help everybody. We can't.
Right.
But if you have a potential case, I'll certainly let you know if we can help you or not. And
Right.
that's providing a service whether we represent them or not.
So the easiest way to find is Google and looking up the CRPS law firm or Bryan Pope, CRPS.
Yeah, crpslawfirm.com.
Okay,
That's the easiest way.
perfect.
Um, we have an 800 number, 844 um, 444-2777, which is CRPS. But yeah, the website, you're going to get into a chat, and then we'll get the chat, and
Right.
we'll follow up. Our staff will follow up. Um, but it's probably a good time to kind of segue into
Hmm.
talking about how do you know if you have a case, because
Absolutely.
not like I said, not everybody has a case. I mean, we represent people who have CRPS as a result of trauma. And that can be different kinds of trauma, and it can be very minor trauma.
Hmm.
I've represented people who have what you would think would be fairly innocuous, not that big a deal injuries that resulted in development of really, really bad CRPS. Because anytime you have trauma to the limb, you potentially could get CRPS.
Right.
So we represent people, who've been in car accidents or truck accidents, or slip and fall, at premises, or
Hmm.
workplace injuries, where we can, find somebody that we can sue, that caused their injury.
Right.
Um, the most of the cases we see are people will get injured. They'll have like a back injury, or a neck injury, or something like that, and have to have surgery.
Hmm.
And as a result of the surgery, maybe a wrist injury, something like that, as a result of the surgery, they didn't have CRPS before, but they
Hmm.
develop it after.
Right.
And this is really important for people to understand. And I make sure this is an emphasis when I talk. Um, just because you get CRPS after a surgery or a medical procedure does not mean that the doctor, the nurse, phlebotomist, whoever it may be, made a mistake.
Right.
Because CRPS is a foreseeable complication of any medical procedure. Because anytime you're in there rooting around and messing with nerves, you can
Hmm.
always irritate it, to the extent that you could develop, a nerve
Hmm.
injury that would lead to CRPS. So the most of the cases that I see, Matt, are people who have been diagnosed with CRPS after surgery,
Right.
and 90+% or more, higher, do not have a case,
Right.
because it's even in the informed consent, that a patient signs that they know the result of the procedure could result in the development of nerve condition or
Right.
complex regional pain syndrome, RSD, or anything like that.
Right.
So, the doctor needs to have made a mistake. An example would be like a foot surgery, where they didn't follow the standard of care, and they cut a nerve,
Right.
something like that, or after surgery. The person was, experiencing pain because the tourniquet was too tight or something along those lines.
Right.
A lot of cases, that we look at are what I call needle stick cases. When that's when somebody goes in, to get an IV stick, and
Hmm.
um, the needle is applied, probably in the wrong place, below the standard of where you would expect it to be,
Hmm.
or it directly hits a nerve and they don't pull it out, even though there are complaints of pain. Um, those are difficult cases, but we do have a number of those that we're able to, successfully go after
Well,
the person that did the stick, and whoever they worked for.
right.
Um, so those,
Hmm.
are kind of the universe of, it's got to be trauma,
Hmm.
and it's got to be identifiable conduct that resulted in the trauma that was, from a medical standpoint, either below the standard of care, or from a trauma standpoint, somebody was negligent in
Right.
causing an accident, causing a truck wreck, a car wreck, a
Right.
motorcycle accident, something like that.
Yeah, a true cause and effect that can be proved, essentially,
Yes.
it seems like along the way. Okay. So for yourself, obviously, having a huge component in the USA, having urban, rural, and smaller communities and larger communities through and through. Do you actually work or advise individuals outside of the USA? And if so, what potentially does that look like?
Well, I'm not licensed outside of the USA,
Hmm.
but for Canada, for instance, I guess the best answer to that is I have friends all over the world who are trial lawyers.
Yes.
So in the UK, in Canada, if somebody is injured and
Hmm.
develops CRPS as a result of that injury, I could potentially help them, guide them to a law firm, or legal advocate who could help them in
Right.
other countries.
Honestly, that's much appreciated because along the way, there is a lot of times that we end up hitting the wall and we don't know the next step to take. That you're willing to still engage with that individual and say, it's something I can't personally help you with, but I can get you in contact potentially with someone who can. That's all we really and ultimately are looking for as human beings. So
Right.
that you're offering that service, it's absolutely amazing that you have that reach.
Well, and I get a lot of inquiries about, hey, can you help me with my workers' comp situation in, let's say New York
Great.
or some other state, that I'm not licensed in, and I don't do workers' comp.
Great.
But potentially I could help them as a resource, try to find somebody who could help them. Or, I need a lawyer for Social Security disability.
Right.
Well, I've got friends who do that as well. So I just kind of consider myself to be a one-stop shop. If you have something going on with CRPS in the legal system, whether it be, a trauma related or something like that,
Mhm.
we're happy to vet it and let you know if we can help you, and if we can't, maybe hopefully point you in the right direction and get you some answers.
Honestly, it seems like it's turned into so many things for yourself in this community, and I know a big component has been the work that you're now doing behind the scenes towards Trial by Fire too. For
Yes.
the next documentary between Charles Maddox, yourself, and obviously the CRPS community as a whole, what's really inspired you to get behind this next documentary?
Well, I remember seeing Trial by Fire when it came out, and I was like, wow, that is the first thing that I've seen that addresses CRPS. And I got to kind of know what Charles's story was, and
Mhm.
what drove him and his passion. And um, he reached out to me, and said, we're gonna do another sequel 10 years
Mhm.
later. It's time to talk again about CRPS to the community. And you've been an advocate, and I see your involvement, and you care, and you have a passion.
Mhm.
Is this something that you would be interested in coming in and talking about what you do, and sharing stories about your clients? And it's a message of hope, Matt, that that there are answers, and sometimes there are ways that we can help people from a legal standpoint, and I think that's a message that needs to be heard. And so Trial by Fire 2, uh, is a documentary of hope,
Right.
and I'm looking forward to looking forward to seeing it.
To be honest, for myself, along the way, I would say in my last 6 months of other warriors that I've talked with and other individuals, even in this type of conversation, the one thing that we're all now focused on is that word itself. It's hope. It's opportunity. It's all of those different things. We talk about spirituality. We talk about who we are as people, but we always come down to that one specific word that for whatever reason, as a combined community, we're in a market where we're now starting to feel the hope. We're seeing other countries around the world. We see a conglomerate of 34 countries now equitably adding towards a research perspective on CRPS. We see McGill University in Montreal, Canada, now looking at the use of AI plus the gut microbiome plus CRPS to try and find identifiers. And we see like actual impact is finally happening. So for yourself, with the projects like Trial by Fire 2 and everything else that you spoke about, how do you feel that this has become really important in raising the awareness for our community and changing the conversation around CRPS?
Well, and I pointed back earlier to Take Care of Maya, as something that put CRPS out there in a different way,
Hmm.
and so I think documentaries like Chase has done, and like Trial by Fire is going to
Yeah,
be, and we expect it to be well received, and that it'll be pushed out with Revoke,
yeah.
which is a great opportunity to help the CRPS community as well. I think that Trial by Fire has an opportunity to put a real mark out there that will result in hopefully people becoming more aware of CRPS.
Hmm.
At the RSDSA, we get donations
Hmm.
from people who don't even have CRPS but are wanting to help. And I think that we'll probably see an uptick in that,
Right,
um, which is very important because the RSDSA is the forefront of the R&D and doing studies and things like that,
right.
which are so necessary to understanding CRPS and understanding how we can help, with treatments and things like that, breakthrough treatments in the future.
Right. Honestly, the impact that you're part of within our community itself, I hope that people understood today the better part of the conversation of all the different facets that you've really been instrumental in helping address and drive forward. It helps patients, it helps families, it's part of the medical community, it's the legal communities, and it's also the general public. You're really doing work beyond just providing legal support to individuals. And honestly, it's been absolutely amazing to hear your personal story and your impact on what you've done. Being able to learn more about you and hearing your words today, it's actually been entirely inspiring for myself. And I know it'll probably put a smile on my face for the rest of the night when my own spouse comes home and asks, how was it today and how was your pain? And the first thing I'm going to say is that was totally irrelevant. I had probably one of the most life-changing conversations I've had with someone coming into the legal space. So I absolutely deeply appreciate everything that you've shared with me today.
Great.
Yeah,
Well, I've enjoyed our conversation, and anything I can do
yeah,
to help your involvement with Trial by Fire, with
yeah.
Revoke, absolutely. I'm happy to help, and look forward to continuing to make a mark in the community.
Honestly, I can't wait to see what's next, and I appreciate it through and through. Is there any last words that you'd like to leave with the community today? Or with that, are we going to say our goodbyes and adieus and then wait till the masses?
Yeah, I think we hit everything. It's it's a passion, and it drives me every day to see how I can continue to evolve as an attorney, as an advocate, and as somebody who's fighting for the CRPS warriors out there. That's if you come to me, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a fighter going into the ring to help the CRPS warriors.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Bryan, for everything. And I look forward to seeing you one day live on stage, being able to represent our community.
Look forward to it as well, Matt.